Hare Krishna. So, we are waiting for the devotees to come, and those who are online, if there are anybody online, you can press *6 to unmute the phone and introduce yourself. Anybody online? Haribol Gunjan, welcome. Welcome. Hare Krishna. Please, no problems, take your time. Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna, welcome. How are you, Gunjan? Good. Nice to see you. We'll wait for a couple of more minutes. I did ask if somebody was online, and either they couldn't *6, or there is some reason they couldn't, or there are nobody online. So we'll just wait for a couple of more minutes, and then we can start. Your drive was comfortable? Was your drive comfortable? No traffic? Wonderful. Excellent. Hare Krishna, Aditi. Welcome. Hare Krishna. Welcome. So we can start with the Mangalacharan prayers, and for those who want to follow it, they are in page 1 of Bhagavad Gita. If you want to, it's okay.
Hare Krishna Prabhu, this is Radha Venkat from Sacramento. Dandavat pranams, all glories to Prabhupada.
Dandavat pranam, Radha Venkat Prabhu, all glories to Prabhupada. So happy to hear.
There are 10 viewers on the internet.
Amazing. Wow, that's beautiful. So we'll start today with, as Aditi Mataji so kindly pointed out, the right verses. The reason of the confusion is, no problem. Usually it's alternate, right? So I was thinking like that in any case. So please, actually get more copies, they're right there. And everybody can have one copy. There are plenty of copies in the back. You can get more for Aditi Mataji. I don't know if you copies. Oh yeah. You can get the book. Okay. So let me start the Mangalacharan prayers, and then we can go. Om अज्ञानतिमिरन्धस्य ज्ञानाञ्जनाशलाकया चक्षुरुन्मिलितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरुवे नमः। श्रीचैतन्यमनोभीष्टं स्थापितं येन भूतले रूपकदा मह्यं ददाति स्वापदान्तिकं। वन्देऽहं श्रीगुरोः श्रीयुतापदकमलं श्रीगुरुं वैष्णवांश्च। श्रीरूपं साग्रजातां सहगणा रघुनाथान्वितं त्वं सजीवं साद्वैतं सावधूतं परिजनासहितं कृष्णचैतन्यदेवं श्रीराधा कृष्णपादान् सहगणा ललिता श्रीविशाखान्वितंश्च। हे कृष्णा करुणा सिन्धो दीनबन्धो जगत्पते गोपेशा गोपिका कान्ता राधाकान्ता नमोऽस्तुते। तप्त काञ्चना गौराङ्गी राधे वृन्दावनेश्वरी वृषभानुसुते देवी प्रणमामि हरिप्रिये। वाञ्छाकल्पतरुभयश्च कृपा सिन्धुभ्य एव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः। जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैता गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौर भक्तवृंद। हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे। मत्समो नास्ति पापात्मा न पराधी च कश्चन परिहारेऽपि लज्जामे किं ब्रुवे पुरुषोत्तम। भूमौ स्खलितपादानां भूमिरेवावलम्बनं त्वयि जातापराधानां मामेव शरणं प्रभो। आनन्दलीलामय विग्रहाय हेमावदिव्याच्छविसुन्दराय तस्मै महाप्रेम रसप्रदाय चैतन्यचन्द्राय नमो नमस्ते। Hare Krishna. I welcome all the devotees for the class on Isopanishad. Today we will be discussing verses 1 through 5. Last week we discussed the invocation and also the introduction. In the introduction, essentially it consisted of a lecture which was given by Srila Prabhupada in London in 1969. And what we discussed in the introduction was the fact that Vedas, how Vedas are and what are the characteristics. And then we discussed also the commentaries of different acharyas and what are the 4 defects of a conditioned soul. What are the 4 defects of a conditioned soul? Imperfect senses, propensity to cheat, he is under illusion. What's the last one? Let's look up, it should be there. And tendency to commit mistakes. So those are four tendencies of a conditioned soul. So today's class we are going to discuss about the first 5 verses. First 5 verses, the broad outline is, the first verse talks about the material world, and really, is there any person that's actually controlling the material world? And what is the jivas, or what is the spirit soul's role to play in the material world? So that's the first verse. The second verse is, what is the attitude or what is the process which should be adopted by the conditioned soul so that one need not be bound by the laws of material world. And the third one gives the destination of those who actually don't care for human form of life. In that particular important words, we actually discuss how extremely lucky we are that we are today sitting together in the temple of Radha Madan Mohan and actually trying to understand Isopanishad. And in the last two verses, the fourth and the fifth verse, the Isopanishad talks about Krishna. But please understand, it's not directly about Krishna. Because Isopanishad, or the Upanishads in general, they dwell more on the Brahman aspect of Krishna. So, I would recommend, please, if you can get few shloka books for passing out. Anybody, Gaurav or Avantika, anybody can is fine. So, let's discuss one verse before we go on. It's there in Chaitanya Charitamrita. This is one of the introductory verses of Chaitanya Charitamrita. And whenever we have Isopanishad class, we'll also read the entire Isopanishad, like we do on Wednesdays. So that will be a nice segue into it. A few copies are good, and we can start. So let's turn to page 291 on Shloka book, 291. You don't have to repeat because it's a long verse, but in any case, that will give you a brief introduction. Yadadvaitam brahmopanishadi tadapasyatanuva ya atmantaryami purusha iti soshamsha vibhavaha shadaishvarya purno ya iha bhagavan saswayam ayam na chaitanya krishna jagati paratatvam param iha. What the Upanishads describe as the impersonal Brahman is but the effulgence of his body, and the Lord known as the Supersoul is but his localized plenary portion. He is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna himself, full with 6 opulences. He is the absolute truth, and no truth is greater than or equal to him. So, this particular verse actually gives a little bit of what Upanishads talk about. When we read Upanishads, we really don't get Krishna's pastimes in Vrindavan. That's not the essence of Upanishad. Krishna is divided into 3 aspects. They are Brahman and Bhagavan. So there are 3 aspects to it. And so the Upanishads actually describe more about the Brahman effulgence. So that's why we find there are a lot of indirect references to Krishna. There is not direct reference. In fact, in the Upanishad, the Isopanishad which we read, there is only one verse actually which talks about the personal feature of Krishna. But in that sense, it's not completely impersonal either. That every verse doesn't say God is Brahman, light, effulgence. No, there are, you can say clues, but the fact is there is no direct talk. Directly it's not mentioned in Upanishads that Krishna is the Supreme Lord. In some places it's mentioned, but in roundabout ways. So that's like a brief, you can say, intro to Upanishads. All right. So let's turn to the Isopanishad copy, page 17. here is a vote you can take, the audience can take. Do you want to read the entire Isopanishad now or in the middle of the class? When things get little boring and then we need like a wake-up kind of thing, we'll do the chanting together. Is that a good thing? No offense meant. It was more of a humor. You are all such wonderful students. It may be other way around. I may need a wake-up. Yeah, we'll chant this one loud, but later probably we'll do the entire Isopanishad. But let's kindly repeat the mantra one. Ishavasyam idam sarvam yat kincha jagatyam jagat tena tyaktena bhunjita Magridha kasya svidhanam. Translation: everything animate or inanimate that is within the universe is controlled and owned by the Lord. One should therefore accept only those things necessary for himself, which are set aside as his quota, and one should not accept other things, knowing well to whom they belong. So the first particular verse itself says that everything animate or inanimate in this world is controlled by the Lord. Isha means the Lord, Avasya means is controlled. So even in the first line, we get a lot of information. There are two kinds of beings, animate and inanimate. And both of them are actually controlled by the Lord. And then the other thing is that the animate actually live on the inanimate. Right? Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita, Maya adhyakshena prakriti suyate sacharacharam hetunayena kaunteya jagad viparivartate. So Krishna says that under my direction the material nature is working, and there is another one verse, I forget. The living entity is struggling hard with six senses. Manashashtan indriyani prakritisthani karshati. What's the beginning of that verse? I don't remember. But in any case, Krishna says that the living... thank you. No, mamevaya prapadyanti mahamid. No, that's the... yeah, it's there in... I don't remember. But in any case, the inanimate or the animate objects, the jiva, are struggling with the inanimate object, which is the material nature. And if you actually see, every act of the conditioned existence is to actually either control or enjoy or do something with matter. People are trying to constantly, if there is a problem in material world, people are trying to solve it. Or if there is Mars, let's go control and own and explore Mars. Because I see that, it's mine. I have to enjoy it. Now then, to enjoy that, you have to solve a problem, how to get there. So the whole material nature is actually trying to conquer this material, not conquer, but actually struggle hard against controlling the material world. But Krishna says that already the material world is controlled by Krishna. Ishavasyam idam sarvam. But what is our role? The point is, what is Jiva's role? So Jiva, Krishna says already the Jiva has given his allotment, whatever is needed. And then we should accept what is given to us by Krishna and leave aside rest, to knowing well to whom they belong to. If this principle is followed, this entire material world will become Vaikuntha, guaranteed. Because people won't take more than what is needed. Everything is there, because one of the questions people ask is, why is there so much hunger? Why is there so much of inequality in the material? Why is there so much of injustice in the material world? The fact of the matter is that Krishna has provided everything for every being. It is just when the mismanagement happens because of one's greed, then the material world is topsy-turvy. Because unless, if Krishna is not the maintainer, or if Krishna doesn't take care of few people, and he only takes, he takes care of few people and he doesn't, then God is not maintaining everybody. But it is said he's a maintainer of everybody. When he is the maintainer of everybody, The implicit understanding of that is he provides for everybody. If you say, I am the employer of all these 10 people, implicit in that understanding is I pay all the 10 people. Not that I pay 5 people and other 5 people are still my employees. It doesn't work that way. Ishavasyam principle. So let's go a little bit more into the purport. That's the overall generic thing. We'll get into the little bit of technical details on the stuff. Welcome Balram, welcome Avantika. And Abhay, nice to see you. So let's see the purport. Let's go paragraph by paragraph into the purport, and then we'll try to cover the purport. In the first purport, Srila Prabhupada writes that Vedic knowledge is infallible because it comes down through disciplic succession. We discussed at length in the introduction, and that Vedic knowledge comes from disciplic succession, and it's called Apaurusheya. What is Apaurusheya means? Means not of this material world. It is transcendental. And then, because it's Apaurusheya, it is not subject to 4 kinds of defects. Because, please understand, I think we dwelt at length, is not only what do you know, but how do you know what you know? How do you know that what you know is the truth? Everybody is searching after truth, but when you try to say, okay, I know some stuff, but if you get it from the wrong source, you know wrong stuff, right? Suppose, for example, a particular person says that 200 miles into the ocean, the water is red. No, you haven't seen it, but you have accepted with faith that person has told you. But if that person himself is erroneous, then the information you got is erroneous. But Vedic knowledge is not subject to such erroneous conclusions because it is Apaurusheya. So that is essentially the first paragraph right there. And then for those who joined late, we are on the 18th page, the second paragraph. Isopanishad is part of which Veda again? Excellent, thank you, Yajurveda. And then what else do we need to know? Let's read a little bit of a couple of paragraphs, then we'll try to go a little bit deeper. Let's read the last paragraph on page 18. The Lord's proprietorship over everything within the universe is confirmed in the 7th chapter of Bhagavad Gita, 7.4 and 7.5, where para and apara prakriti are discussed. The elements of nature, earth, water, fire, air, ether, mind, intelligence and ego, all belong to the Lord's inferior material energy, apara prakriti, whereas the living entity, the organic energy, is his superior energy, para prakriti. Both of these prakritis or energies are emanations from the Lord, and ultimately he is the controller of everything that exists. There is nothing in the universe that does not belong either to the para or apara prakriti. Therefore, everything is the property of the Supreme Being. So, what are the 2 kinds of energies the Lord has? Para and apara. So, are we para or apara? Para, okay. Most to an extent, yeah. Ours is that little tricky situation. We are para, but also depending on our own identity, we can consider ourselves para or apara. For example, a living entity considers, if he strongly identifies himself with matter, then he will say that I am just matter, I am not the spirit. Because this is the living entity, the jiva, and this is the matter. And then we are like right now in this condition, completely like bound with matter. Based on our devotional service, we can either consider strongly this side or this side, spiritual or material. But essentially we are a combination of both in the conditioned state of existence. Because to the extent we consider ourselves conditioned, to that extent we identify with one particular potency of the Lord or other. For example, in the conditioned state, because the living entity thinks, I am this body and everything related to body is mine and I am the enjoyer, to that extent you try to control, you try to manipulate, and you try to enjoy the material world. To the extent you are spiritual, to that extent you are detached from matter. And every religion actually trains, because the jiva is pure spirit soul, the jiva has to be trained to detach oneself from matter gradually over a period of time. It's not going to happen immediately. So that is the para and the apara. Questions, comments? Avantika, you had questions? Balram, any questions? You're good? Excellent. Reading, let's continue our reading on the 19th chapter, second paragraph. Because the Supreme Being, the absolute personality of Godhead, is complete person, he has the complete and perfect intelligence to adjust everything by means of his different potency. The Supreme Being is often compared to fire, and everything organic and inorganic is compared to the heat and light of the fire. Just as fire distributes energy in the form of heat and light, the Lord displays his energy in different ways. Thus he remains the ultimate controller, the sustainer and dictator of everything. He is the possessor of all potencies, the knower of everything and the benefactor of everyone. He is full of inconceivable opulence, power, fame, beauty, knowledge and renunciation. So the Lord, does he have material potency or spiritual potency? Both. So since he has both, can he convert from matter to spirit and spirit to matter? How is it possible? Can anybody give an example? Matter to spirit and spirit to matter. Right, that's one example. So that's an example of kind of making the spiritual being into material. So to the point that the material soul considers himself completely identical with matter. So do you think, either Balarama or Avantika, you answer this, is the Lord who is, where is Lord Radha Madan Mohan? Where is Madan Mohan? Is he made of stone or is he spiritual? People might say he's made of stone. They don't know, okay. So, right, so that is an example of a Lord considering or converting something material to purely spiritual. In the Archa Vigraha form of the deity, the Lord is there in his complete being, completely spiritual, accepting the food and every other service that his devotees give. So he's purely spirit, he's completely spirit. Though in the material perception, it may be just made of stone or marble or whatever. So Krishna, being the controller of both material and spiritual potencies, he can convert one thing to another. That people can't understand. People think, if God comes to this world, how can God be spiritual? Because this world is full of matter. An example is, for example, the President of the United States, when he goes to prison, he's become a prisoner. Let's put him into prison. Really, is he that powerless that he goes to a prison, he becomes a prisoner? Can he become a prisoner? The president, when he goes. Why do people think that when God comes here, he's conditioned by the laws of material world? It's not possible. It's just simply against all plain logic. All right.
Prabhuji, material to spiritual, prasadam.
Prasadam, excellent point, Radha Venkat Prabhu. Is prasadam spiritual or material? There you go. We'll rest our case. 19. Let's go reading a little bit more. One should therefore be intelligent enough to know that except for the Lord, no one is a proprietor of anything. One should accept only those things that are set aside by the Lord as his quota. The cow, for instance, gives milk, but she does not drink that milk. She eats grass and straw, and her milk is designated as food for human beings. Such is the arrangement of the Lord. Thus, we should be satisfied with those things He has kindly set aside for us, and we should always consider to whom those things we possess actually belong. So one question people will ask, how do I know what is Lord set aside for me? It's a big question, because actually that thing which is belong to my neighbor, actually that is not his, so it is supposed to be mine, so I'll take it, it's okay. Or, what I have is actually, I don't think Lord just said I should get only $1 million. I should be actually destined for $10 million, according to whomever you go. People they go to astrologers, and if the astrologers doesn't like or if the astrologer doesn't tell them that what they want to listen, they will go to some other astrologer. To the point that they go to a fake astrologer and they make sure that they hear what they wanted to hear from that astrologer. And they say, Lord has not said I should make only $1 million. I should be actually making $10 million, according to the astrologer. So the question is, how do we know what the Lord has set aside? Interesting thing, we will come back to it later. So let's keep reading. I'll come back. Trust me, we will answer the question in this class. Not only before we go to the next verse, but something to think about. Because how do we know what's the quota? What's my quota? Because everywhere it is like, what's in for me? Okay, even if you go to God, okay, God, you think you set aside something? Okay, how much? All right, we'll answer that question. So in the next few paragraphs, the Lord, Srila Prabhupada actually says that everything that Krishna has created, we cannot create on our own. That's another thing. Scientists, they have expressed man's inability as a scientific law. The science says that matter can neither be created nor destroyed, but converted from one form of energy to another form of energy. Right? So the point here is, if man can neither create nor destroy matter, who created it? That nobody will ask. It's there. But if man is so superior, and Balram, you should come here, sit here. Take your books and come and sit here. So the scientists say, no, it's a law. Our inability, because man is supposed to be the most intelligent, the controller of everything. But why don't you answer the simple question that if you can't create matter, who created it? And then they can slaughter animals based on the principle that animals are also matter. This is even more ridiculous. So it's clear that matter is being created by some higher power, some higher intelligent source who is beyond man. And that's God. It's a simple truth. But people, usually for those who are too materialistic, who are demoniac, they won't accept these simple facts. They will give so many complex theories to eradicate God. Anything. And they don't even realize that the intelligence by which they are able to put forth that complex theory is given by Himself, God Himself. If you want to disprove God, He will give you intelligence to disprove Himself. And you will be in illusion. Because you disprove God, it doesn't mean the God ceases to exist. There's there in your own mind that God ceases to exist. Krishna is always present. Right? And then in the 20th chapter, in this next paragraph, the Isopanishad talks about communists and capitalists. And Srila Prabhupada, in those time, in 1969, it was a big threat to the world, the communism and capitalism. The communists were Soviet, and then the capitalists were US. So there was a big fight. I think those who are born after 1989, and that may be history for you, because in 1989 the Berlin Wall broke down, and there was like the Soviet Empire disbanded. But in those days it was two powers. It keeps shifting. It doesn't matter. The essence is there is always one power who tries to control. There will be over a period of time another power who tries to control, and they try to clash, try to control that particular earth or whatever be the case. But Srila Prabhupada says that everything belongs to Krishna. The funny part is, how many kings actually fought for land over history? They fought for land, they fought for so many things. Where are the kings? But is the land still there? Same thing. You know, when people try to fight over something, it's like, yeah. The other thing Srila Prabhupada writes is, in the part, what is set aside for me, I think Srila Prabhupada dwells at length, like what is the food set aside. He discusses at length that the tigers, you take the best possible cheesecake and put it in front of the tiger. Tiger will sniff it, because the tiger's food is meat. And the elephant's food is grass, trees, grass. And then so point here is every jiva has their food allocated. And then Srila Prabhupada writes, Krishna has allocated for human beings vegetarian food. And it's a fact. I'll tell you an interesting story. I've been reading a book. It's a book on leadership, which I'm supposed to read at work. And the book is called Endurance, which is basically Ernest Shackleton. He was a British explorer. And 100 years ago, 1914, he started off from England to be the first person to cross the Arctic. Antarctic is on the top, Arctic is on the bottom. So from England they sailed to Arctic, and Arctic they wanted to cross over the entire Arctic on foot. And when they're about to reach the Arctic, I don't know how many people know or aware, when they reach the Arctic, their ship gets trapped in the ice, and then their ship completely just collapses because of the pressure of ice on the ship. It collapses. And Ernest Shackleton, they lose all their boat, they lose all, over a period of time they just are trapped, and their food supplies run out, and eventually they have to hunt for meat. They kill so many like penguins, seals for eating meat. And day after day for I think almost an year they eat meat. They have nothing else to eat. And at the end, they make a list of when you actually go back to the mainland, to quote-unquote civilization, what do you want to eat? And then people write, I want to eat, a lot of people say, I want to eat marmalade with toast. I want to eat, cream cheese and this. I want to eat, some person said, I want bread toast. And one of the person writes, we want to be fed with all these sweets and delicacies and all those wonderful jams, marmalades, crumpets, whatever the English had in 100 years ago. And you know what they said? If anybody as so much offers us meat, we'll shoot him. We don't want to see meat till we live. The point is, I was reading this and said, this is true, because the human being is not meant to eat meat over a sustained period of time. For the satisfaction of tongue, people will eat, but their constitutional position is not to eat meat. And this is a graphic example of, at that time, they don't have, see, those explorers, they had no qualms about not eating meat. They had no restrictions against not eating. In fact, they were forced to eat meat for so many days, but their natural tendency was not to eat meat. If human beings' natural position was to eat meat, they would have said, give us better meat when we go to civilization. But they had against. right? So Krishna has a specific diet for human beings. And journal after journal after journal is published about the effects or the ill effects of eating non-vegetarian diet and the benefits of eating vegetarian diet. There are researches which are published, and we can see that. So, anyways, and then Srila Prabhupada, let's come back to earth. Yes, Balram. Maharaj Prithu, cow.
Yeah, so there, what is Maharaj Prithu? He actually, he's like chasing mother cow
Right.
or the earth, and then he's saying that since you didn't give any grains or anything to us, we're going to kill you to eat us. So in the purport is written that Prabhupada is saying that if there's scarcity of food, then you can eat meat, but if there is enough food in the world, there is no need to eat. And then he also saying that in some countries there is very less food, and so that's why they're eating meat. But in some countries there's so much food that they're throwing it into the ocean. But but actually the two countries should actually share their food, and so then they both will have food, and then they all will live happily.
Wonderful, thank you. Thank you, Balaram. That's very insightful. But then Srila Prabhupada actually goes ahead and says that just eating vegetarian diet is not enough. One has to actually offer food to Krishna. So on that note, if there is an emergency, then there are some ways, at least in the modern world, we don't have to be like those explorers trapped in Arctic where there was nothing else to eat. But in the modern world, we have the options actually to make sure that we eat prasadam all the time. But if you can't, then there are ways and means to kind of make sure that you can get some vegetarian diet. At least in the modern world, it's much better now. Because even I heard in US 50 years ago, if you go to some parts and ask for vegetarian, they would say, what is a vegetarian? Right? Now, is that right? Okay. Yeah. So at least that way, I think progressively that's one of the benefit, at least of living in 2014, whatever. You get some vegetarian stuff. So let's read the last paragraph on page 22 before we'll complete this mantra. On page 22. Natalie, maybe you want to read that particular paragraph and then we'll go today, one by one. The last paragraph on page 22. You have to press the power button and hold it till you see the green. Hold it until you see the green on. Just hold it till you see the green light on. And if you're not speaking, you can just press it, it becomes amber.
Okay, thank you. The root of sin is deliberate disobedience of the laws of nature through disregarding the proprietorship of the Lord. Disobeying the laws of nature or the order of the Lord brings ruin to a human being. Conversely, one who is sober, who knows the laws of nature, and who is not influenced by unnecessary attachment or aversion, is sure to be recognized by the Lord, and thus become eligible to go back to Godhead, back to the eternal home.
Wonderful, thank you. So I think I made a promise that we'll answer the question before we go to the next verse. It's not there in the shloka book, but it's there for those who want to look up the answer. It's in Bhagavad Gita, 4th chapter and 22nd verse. The answer to the question is like, how do we know what has the Lord set aside for my quota? In that particular verse, 4th chapter, 22nd verse, it is said, Yadrichaya labha santushto dvandvatito vimatsaraha sama siddhava siddhaucha karmani na nibadyate. That particular verse actually so nicely gels in with this particular phrase. I'll read that verse. I'll read that verse. Probably not sure. In any case, the verse says, Yadrichaya labha santushto. Yadrichaya means whatever or something that comes of its own accord. Yadrichaya. Labha means gain, profit. Yadrichaya labha santushto. Dvandva atito vimatsara. Which means that a person is beyond the dualities and who is non-envious. Because this tendency to encroach upon others comes only when one is non-envious. When there is envy, means that guy has it, I don't have it. I should get it, I should have it. Happy. That is envy. But the thing is, if you realize that that person has God by grace of God, and what you have also you will get by the grace of God, and if you are satisfied, then that's a easy way. So the answer is Yadrichaya means the gain will come of its own accord. Every living entity has something called destiny, which is good and bad. And it is said in Bhagavatam, I think that we'll all recite together. It's there in Bhagavatam. This is an important verse too. Let's read, open the Shloka book, page 172. Balaram doesn't have a Shloka book. You both can share. You and Gunjan can share. 172. Actually, Gunjan, you can read from this particular. I'll give it back, and you can give back to me later. Okay? Let's all repeat that verse together. No, it's fine. It's fine. You can give that to her. Everybody ready? Tasyaiva heto prayateta kovido na labhyate yad brahmatam uparyada ta labhyate dukkha vadanyata sukham Kalena sarvatra gabira ramhasa. Gunjan, can you read the translation, then give back to me.
Translation. Persons who are actually intelligent and philosophically inclined should endeavor only for that purposeful end, which is not obtainable even by wandering from the topmost planet, Brahmaloka, down to the lowest planet, Patala. As far as happiness derived from sense enjoyment is concerned, it can be obtained automatically in course of time, just as in course of time we obtain miseries even though we do not desire them.
Nobody gets up in the morning and thinks, today I should have a fatal accident on the road. Nobody starts a business saying, I'll go bankrupt in 1 year. Nobody starts with the saying that I should get a deadly disease today. Why deadly disease? Even cold. I don't even want to get a cold. But do you see people getting it? And so if you don't want miseries, but you get it anyways, why won't the opposite number is true? So the point here is, the Lord has already allocated for everybody based on their karma. Your destiny, you will get it, good or bad. So then what is the purpose? The people say, because this is a very philosophical talk, people say, then if I have destiny, why am I even working? I'll get it on my own accord. It will get, I'll not get, he'll not get. The point here is, Krishna says one has to helplessly work. That's the first aspect. The second aspect is that
What was the first one?
What's that?
What?
First point. So the first point is, when people say that, destiny is there, right? Good will come, bad will come. Why do I have to work? Anyway, I'm going to get it. But Krishna says that you are forced to work. He says in the 3rd chapter, a conditioned soul is helplessly forced to work based on the modes of material nature you have acquired. For example, a person is in the mode of passion, he's constantly working, get money, get women, get power, get prestige. That's how his mind is thinking and he's working. A person in the mode of goodness is more like poet, philosopher, professor, or, professor, not sure. Anyways, but those kind of things. As person in the mode of ignorance, always sleeping, drunk, lazy, procrastinating, I need to find a job. 2 years later, he'll be drunk and he'll say, I need to find a job. That is mode of ignorance. People are forced to work. So based on your nature of work, you are going to get your results. So then people say okay, work, automatic. Results, automatic. What am I doing here? You say I'm forced to work helplessly day in, day out. Okay, I understand that. I'm getting also good and bad day in, day out. The thing is, the human life is a life which is meant for spiritual advancement. So if our whole focus just lies on knowing or working just to maintain the body, then our results are not going to be perfect, or the human life is not reaching its full potential. We'll read that in the third verse. So, shall we go to the next verse? Because we do have to cover. Yes.
Before we do that, just a quick question. You said Gita, 4th chapter, 26th verse?
22nd, I apologize.
Oh, I'm sorry. Okay. So.
Yadrichaya labha santushto. 22nd. Okay, Balram, be ready to read the translation, okay? Okay, mantra 2, please repeat after me. We are on page 23. Kurvan eveha karmani jijivichechatam samaha evam tvai nanyate tosti na karma lipyate nare. Balram, please read the translation.
One may aspire to live for hundreds of years if he continuously goes on working in that way, for that sort of work will not bind him to the law of karma. There is no alternative to this way for man.
Wonderful. So here, the first verse actually gives the concept, or gives the framework. There is God, He controls both matter and spirit. You have to work. You should know what is your quota and work for it. And others' quota is somebody else. The second verse says that one will have an easy life, one will have a happy life if one works in that consciousness. One can aspire to live for hundreds of years, provided you will be working in that consciousness. Otherwise, what happens is life becomes a hard struggle and a frustrating struggle. Because you have certain quota given by the Lord, your mind says, I want something else. In fact, the burnout can be pretty fast if you try to struggle against the laws of God. People get frustrated in no time because they don't realize that there is a big picture that's going on here, and one is not aware of the big picture. This is what I need. God? No God. I don't care. So, but the problem is when you go like that without having any broader perspective of life, then one is setting up for failure. And the more important thing it says is that you are bound up by the laws of karma. Let's read a little bit of the purport and then we'll get details, a little bit more details. Srila Prabhupada writes in the first thing that nobody wants to die. Is there any person who wants to die? No, nobody wants to die. But everybody is forced to die. The problem here is it's not the death that is unnatural. Death is natural. But what we do with our life, that is extraordinary. In human form of life, we have that opportunity to do something extraordinary. And that is to be working in such a way that we won't be bound up by laws of karma. In Bhagavad Gita, Krishna says in the 3rd chapter, Yajñartha karmanonyatra lokoyam karma bandhana. What does it mean? Yajñartha karmanonyatra lokoyam karma bandhana. It's 3.9. You can look it up. 3.9. Bhagavad Gita 3rd 9. 3rd chapter. Yeah, 3rd chapter 9th verse, I believe. Balram, correct me. Is that 9th verse or Avantika? What do you think? Is that the 9th verse or which verse it is? Help me find it. Is it 3rd chapter and 9th verse? Yeah, that's the verse I said. Yajñartha karmano nyatra lokoyam karma bandhana. What does it mean? 3:9, yes.
It means work done as a sacrifice for Vishnu has to be performed. Otherwise, work causes bondage in this material world. Therefore, O son of Kunti, perform your prescribed duties for the satisfaction, and that way you will always remain free from bondage.
Thank you. So, first few paragraphs of the purport, coming back to mantra 2 in Isopanishad, Srila Prabhupada talks about the 3 types of karma. There is karma, there is akarma, and there is vikarma. So karma means prescribed duties. Akarma means duties which do not have any reactions. And vikarma means duties against scriptural injunctions. So karma, so what is the difference? What's the difference between akarma, vikarma and karma? Which should we do? Should we do akarma or should we do karma? We should do akarma. Okay? If we do karma as a sacrifice to Vishnu, will it become akarma or karma? Akarma. So, then should we do karma or akarma? I will come back to the same question. Right. Do karma as akarma. That's the point. And then our the other thing is akarma. Okay, here is another question. If you are chanting Hare Krishna, are you doing akarma or karma without akarma? Akarma. But if you are going to office, then you are doing your karma. But if you are giving the fruits of that, then it becomes akarma. Right? The consciousness is important. The devotional activities or like worshipping the deities, reading Srimad Bhagavatam, chanting Hare Krishna, these are all natural activities with no karma involved in it. They are karma free. Of course, there are few caveats also to devotional service. If one offends a devotee, or if there is if there are offenses committed as a part of your karmic part of your devotional service, there may be some reactions, but they are spiritual. They are not material reactions. Okay? So there is a difference right there.
Spiritual reaction is more dangerous than material.
Good question. Depends on what sort of spiritual reaction you are talking about. Especially when we are offending devotees, then it's a serious spiritual. It's better. It's a serious problem. Actually, Maharaj Rahugana says in the 5th canto that I won't fear Yamraj, who is coming to punish me. I won't fear the Trishul or the trident of Lord Shiva, as much as I fear offending a devotee of the Lord. So, yeah, in some cases, spiritual offenses can be more dangerous or more fearful than material, especially when it comes to offending the devotees. Wow. Tell that to Durvasa and he will say, yeah, brother, you're right. Because, Durvasa, he offended Ambarish Maharaj. Yeah. He had a tough time for a year. He couldn't even do anything. Sudarshan Chakra was chasing him continuously. So, yeah, true. Good point. So, akarma, vikarma and karma. Please note, we might get that in exam. Who knows? You might get that exam. Okay, so Upanishads, is Bhagavad Gita an Upanishad or what? Is but it's not there in 108 Upanishads. It's not listed. It's actually listed in Mahabharata, which is Purana, not even an Upanishad. Upanishads are part of Vedas. And Gita Upanishad is... Yes, go ahead. Right, I'm quizzing you, Balram. I'm quizzing everybody here. So, you're right. You're correct. It is Gita Upanishad. So, I don't know if you have Bhagavad Gita here, but You can see in the introduction. I don't. In the introduction, in the last page of the introduction, there is a verse. It's an important verse. It's a beautiful verse. It is said. Sarvo in the Gita Mahatmya, in the last, keep on turning. Yeah. So it is called, the verse goes something like this. Sarvopanishado gavo dogda gopalanandanaha partho vatsastu dhir bhokta dugdam gitam hridam mahat. So the thing is, Sarva Upanishads, all the Upanishads are like, Gava means cows. Sarvopanishado gavo, Dogda means the milkman. Who is the milkman? Gopalanandana or Krishna. And what did he do? He took the milk out of these all Upanishads, and then Partho Vatsastu Dhir Bhokta. Partha or Arjuna was the calf who drank that milk. And what was the milk? Gita. Thank you. Sarvopanishado gavo dogda gopalanandana partho vatsastu dhir bhokta dugdam gitam hridam mahat. Which means that from all the Upanishads which are like cows, the beautiful milk, which was Bhagavad Gita, was milked by Krishna and was given to Arjuna, who was the calf. Yes. You have to hold the mic.
How is like Bhagavad Gita both the Upanishad and a part of Mahabharata?
Because it was spoken by the Lord Himself. So Bhagavad Gita has a unique position because anything which is spoken by the Lord is Vedas, yes? Because whatever words emanate from the mouth of the Lord, they are Vedas. And I think, if I remember right, I'm not sure, I think Bhagavad Gita was spoken by Krishna, who is God Himself. So Vedavyas used Bhagavad Gita and placed it in between Mahabharata so that people could read Mahabharata as a novel, as a historical account, but his whole purpose was to actually get to people to read Bhagavad Gita as part of reading Mahabharata. So that's why Gita takes a unique position, which is also, it is thus a Vedas, but at the same time it is also in the Mahabharata, which is Puranas. So it is both Shruti and Smriti literature. So in that sense, Bhagavad Gita is very unique. Good question, Balram. All right, so that's the Gita Upanishad. And then, so the second verse talks about the consciousness in which we have to perform. But what's the result? Anybody remember the second chapter of Bhagavad Gita, 40th verse? Yeah, I think it should be there in the shloka book. Yeah, yep. Let's everybody come to that verse in the shloka book. Okay, so actually give the mic. No, I think Prabhu, you have to speak the translation. Next is your turn, Avantika, okay? You have to read the translation. Please repeat after me. Neha vikramanashosti pratyavayo na vidyate svalpamapyasya dharmasya trayate mahato bhayat neha vikramanashosti pratyavayo na vidyate swalpamapyasya dharmasya trayate mahato bhayat. Prabhuji, please read the translation.
In this endeavor there is no loss or diminution, and a little advancement on this path can protect one from the most dangerous type of fear.
Thank you. So in the paragraph on page 26 in Isopanishad, sorry, Radha Prabhu, online, please let me know if I am going too fast or switching fast between books so that I'll slow down and I'll let you know. Thank you for your patience. So on page 26 in Isopanishad, in the second paragraph, what is the verse that's mentioned? 240, the verse which we just now discussed. Because Srila Prabhupada writes that even a little bit of doing on this particular path will save you from the greatest danger and save greatest fear. So you are all being saved from the greatest fear just by actually doing this. Seriously, people come here. I usually go for the Bhakti Vriksha programs. I usually start my classes with, I'll give you your ROI today. ROI, Balram, means return on investment. So, for example, most of the devotees are familiar, but for those who are not, a businessman or a businesswoman invests money or time. And the first question they ask is, what do I get back? What is my return? Or how much money I'm going to make on this investment? So return on investment. So this is your return on investment today. One, you are being, saved from the greatest danger. So the other point here is, okay. So Avantika, you are going to read from 27, on page 27, from the line, even though. Got it? Even though, yeah, okay. Yeah.
Even though such God-centered activities may be half finished, they are still good for the executor because they will guarantee him a human form in his next birth. In this way, one can have another chance to improve his position on the path of liberation. How one can execute God-centered activities is elaborately explained in the Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu by Srila Rupa Goswami. We have rendered this book into English as the Nectar of Devotion. We recommend this valuable book to all who are interested in performing their activities in the spirit of Sri Isopanishad.
And we are going to read the Nectar of Devotion in the fourth semester. So the big other super return on investment is that we are guaranteed to get a human form of life. That's a big return on my investment, Baba. Spending so much time here, at least I am guaranteed a human form of life. That's reassuring to know. Questions, comments before we go to Mantra 3? I think we are doing okay on time.
Also, we are guaranteed against loss.
Guaranteed against loss. I'm sorry.
We'll never lose the investment.
Right. That is true. You are guaranteed against loss, against depreciation, against market fluctuations, against wars, against shortages. What? Republicans. Or anybody. Yeah. So nobody can take away your return of investment. But whatever we have invested in the spiritual life, excellent point. Thank you. Okay. Yes, go ahead. Gaurav.
So,
You have to speak, you have to use a microphone because there are... Radha Venkat Prabhu has about 10 devotees in watching. Yeah, go ahead.
so how do we ensure that we don't even come back to the material world?
By achieving perfection in spiritual existence.
Yeah, so I wanted to know, how would you know that?
I can give you the short answer, but for the very long answer, I recommend that you actually wait till the Nectar of Devotion semester. As Natalie said, we actually discussed at length. So, how do we come back? How do we never come back to this material world? Actually, by obtaining prema or love of Godhead, even though you live in this world, you still don't live in this world. To the extent that pure love of Godhead or pure devotional service actually derides the concept of liberation. Liberation doesn't seem a big thing for you. But if you are aspiring for liberation, then pray to Krishna. It is said in the Bhagavatam that one who worships Krishna in perfection and who seeks liberation, Krishna will easily give him liberation. So if you want liberation, go for it. Ask Krishna, he will give you. Yes, Rajesh ji.
Prabhuji, just wanted to just give a comment about when you said we will get human form of life. Because we are already in a human form, we might take it so easy, casually, but actually human form is the only form where you could either go up or remain in this material world. So what we have it, probably we are not paying enough attention, but otherwise there are 8 million.
Correct.
The thesis. Just wanted to add that.
Nice, thank you. Yes, Avantika. You have no questions? All right. Okay. So Aditi, be ready to read the next translation. So the first verse discussed about Ishavasyam spirit. The second verse discussed about the laws the man should follow. The third discusses about those who don't care. I don't care about, what are you talking? God? No God? I don't care about this. Then it is mentioned about the destination of those kind of people. So please repeat after me. Asuryanama te loka andhena tamasa vritaha tamste pretyabhigachanti yeke chatmahano jana. Translation.
The killer of the soul, whoever he may be, must enter into the planets known as the worlds of the faithless, full of darkness and ignorance.
Thank you. So this is the position of those who actually are not going to follow this. And Asurya means those who are the demoniac mentality. And Srila Prabhupada actually writes in the first paragraph that the difference between Asuras and Suras. And hold the question. I'll just complete this verse and then we'll take more questions. So Asura means is demoniac person, and Sura means demigod or the devotee. So Krishna at length explains the characteristics of Asuras in the, anybody remembers, 16th chapter of Bhagavad Gita. In that he says the divine and the demoniac natures. The basic understanding is that the Asuras don't care for Shastras. They don't follow the rules and regulations. I don't care. So the point here is that the Suras are the one who are worshipping. And Srila Prabhupada actually quotes a mantra from Rig Veda to say that. It's commonly used also, Om Tad Vishnu Paramam Padam. I don't know if we can look it up. It should be there. Om Tad Vishnu Paramam Padam. I don't think it's there. Srila Prabhupada paraphrased it in the first chapter, but no, never mind. It shouldn't be in Shloka book. Don't worry about it. Om Tad Vishnu Paramam Padam Sada Pashyanti Suryayo Divya Chakshuratatam. So Srila Prabhupada says that the demigods, this is what's nice to learn, because one should know who is a demigod and who's a demon. So, and then after that, Srila Prabhupada gives that the most important thing in this particular verse is the term is used called Atmaha. Asurya nama te loka andhena tamastavrita tamste pretyabhigachanti yeke atmahano jana. Right? Atmahana means those who are the killer of the soul. That's an interesting phrase there, right there. Killer of the soul. That itself seems little, because soul cannot be killed, right? Can the soul be killed? No. Krishna, what do you mean by killer of the soul? Yeah, you have to use a mic. Either of you have to go, but you have to use mic.
Hiding the true nature of the soul under illusion.
Nice, good point. Hiding the true nature of the soul under illusion. Okay, can you elaborate more on that?
Like identifying oneself as body and then getting attached to the sense gratification. Because of that, we forget we are the soul.
Nice.
And its true nature is being eternal. And
excellent, thank you. Gaurav, you had, okay. Excellent. So, killer of the soul is one who actually, one who, more than killer of the soul, it's killer of the concept of the soul. Because the living entity, he's too attached to matter and the conditioned existence, even forget that there is soul. So the killer of the soul. And then Srila Prabhupada in the next paragraph actually quotes a beautiful verse, Atmaha, that particular phrase. He quotes a beautiful verse from Bhagavatam. That we'll all read together. It's a beautiful verse. It's paraphrased. It's in the 11th canto. Shloka book. Natalie, okay. Actually, yeah, I'll give it to you. I don't need that. Which one is it? Yeah. Page 279. Here, take it. And you can give it back to me later. This is Bhagavatam, 11. No. Here, take this Shloka book. You can read it. We'll all read together. Everybody there? Nrideham? All right. So for those who are online, which verse we are reading, Natalie? 11:20? 11:20:17. We are reading from Srimad
11:20:17.
Thank you. We are reading from Srimad Bhagavatam 11:20:17, and the verse goes like this: Hridehamadyam sulabam sudurlabam. Hridehamadyam sulabam sudurlabam. Plavam sukalpam guru karnadharam. Mayanukulena nabhasvateritam. Puman bhavabdim nataretsa atmaha. Did I get the first line wrong? Okay. Atmaha. So the same thing is, Ha means killer and Atma means killer of the soul. And it is said that actually, Prabhuji, you should do the translation for that particular verse because you are next in line.
The human body, which can award all benefit in life, is automatically obtained by the laws of nature, although it is a very rare achievement. This human body can be compared to a perfectly constructed boat having the spiritual master as the captain and the instructions of the personality of Godhead as favorable winds, impelling it on its course. Considering all these advantages, a human being who does not utilize his human life to cross the ocean of material existence must be considered the killer of his own soul. Lord Krishna instructs Uddhava.
Thank you. So we read from page 30 of Isopanishad. The intelligent, the second paragraph here. Intelligent human beings. So for those who are online, we are switching back to Sri Isopanishad. We are reading on page 30 or text 3 and then starting with intelligent. Intelligent human beings must always remember that the soul obtains a human form after an evolution of many millions of years in the cycle of transmigration. The material world is sometimes compared to an ocean, and the human body is compared to a solid boat designed to especially cross this ocean. The Vedic scriptures and the acharyas, or the saintly teachers, are compared to expert boatmen, and the facilities of the human body are compared to favorable breezes that help the boat ply smoothly to its desired destination. If with all these facilities a human being does not fully utilize his life for self-realization, he must be considered Atmaha, a killer of the soul. Sri Isopanishad warns in clear terms that the killer of the soul is destined to enter into the darkest region of ignorance to suffer perpetually. There are swines, dogs, camels, asses, etc., whose economic necessities are just as important to them as ours to us. But the economic problems of these animals are solved only under nasty and unpleasant conditions. The human being is given all facilities for a comfortable life by the laws of nature because the human form of life is more important and valuable than animal form. Why is a man given a better life than that of swine and other animals? Why is a highly placed government servant given better facilities than those of an ordinary clerk? The answer is that the highly placed officer has to discharge duties of higher nature. Similarly, the duties human beings have to perform are higher than those of animals, who are always engaged in simply feeding their hungry stomachs. Yet the modern soul-killing civilization has only increased the problems of hungry stomach. When we approach a polished animal in the form of a modern civilized man and ask him to take interest in self-realization, he will say that he simply wants to work to satisfy his stomach and that there is no need for self-realization for an hungry man. The laws of nature are so cruel, however, that despite his denunciation for the need of self-realization and his eagerness to work hard to fill his stomach, he is always threatened by unemployment. Anybody familiar with that concept? Threatened by unemployment? What Srila Prabhupada is trying to say is that if one rejects self-realization just in the name, I have to work hard, I don't have time for this, you're not trying to solve your problem eternally. You're just trying to solve the problem temporarily for this life, but then again you have to face the same problem in the next life. So the spiritual realization makes a permanent solution to all the problems. Mike, sorry. Yeah, go ahead.
In this life also it's not guaranteed
that
we will solve the problem.
Right. Avantika, you had a question. Okay. So for those who are online, Avantika said I already answered her question. All right. So the other point Srila Prabhupada writes in the purport is that the human form of life has a purpose, has a mission, has a higher duties to perform, and that's the reason we are given better facilities. We are given intelligence to cook, we are given intelligence to live nicely and have intelligence to do things. But that intelligence, if it is not diverted towards Krishna, and if that intelligence is diverted just how I can fill my belly with no other purpose in life, then Krishna automatically by his mercy, he will place you in the body of an animal. Because he says that's your mentality, that's what you want to do. Don't struggle too much. You don't need to go to Stanford just to fill your belly. Let me give you an animal body. You don't have to worry about degrees, you don't have to worry about exams, SAT, 401k, nothing. You can just eat, sleep, mate, peacefully live. Much better. No prenuptial agreements, no divorce laws, nothing. Happy. Quote unquote happy. Because one of the things people, at least I remember, I was young, I was very foolish. Not that I have become any intelligent now, but I was, my parents used to force me to go to school, and then one day I was, we had cycles, bikes, used to go to school. One day I was going, that day I had an exam or a test, or particularly grumpy. Thank you so much. Grumpy, I don't know why, but in any case, I was going to school, and then I saw a dog. It was just lying on the street, peacefully sleeping. I said, this dog is better than me. Because at least, he doesn't have to go to school and write this exam. But the point here is, people might think like that, it's better. And let's not think like that. But Krishna might say, okay, so be it. Not a nice situation. Because staying in the situation of a dog or any animal is very, very troublesome. They don't even know on a day-to-day basis how can they exist. They try to eat other animals, not knowing that there is a bigger animal waiting for it to eat you. Understand it's going to be the same pain. The same family life which a man has, that are there in animals. The same fear of food is there in animals. And they are meeting their economic conditions with no problems, with not so much of hard work. But their life is so difficult. And there is no guarantee of ever doing something tangible. Because only in the human form of life can you inquire about Bhagavad Gita or no other form. So it's a rare opportunity. So let's not think that we have to do our work, because that's another thing which we will discuss. We'll do our work, but at the same time we do our work or studies or whatever, but at the same time let's not forget Krishna. Let's not think that this is something I have to do, it's just going to help you. Initially it is like that. I have to do, but later it will become, yes, I can't, this is what it is. Make sense? All right. Any questions? Yes, Prabhu. I'm sorry, I didn't get your full name.
I'm Vijay.
Vijay, and what is your last name?
That's my father's name, it's Somasundaram.
Somasundaram, that's easy. Okay, I know I'll remember.
So, you said that there is no need to put hard work and hard effort, it will automatically come by itself. So, does that mean that we should give up our passion and toward things we want to achieve in this material world and just to be happy with whatever we are having, or what does that actually mean?
Good point. When we enter into spiritual world, we are conditioned by modes of material nature. And the process of entering into spiritual world is to actually overcome the modes of material nature. I'll tell you an example. When a person is sick and when a person goes to the doctor, in the beginning stages, it may seem that the sickness still exists. And it may seem that the doctor is practically useless. Because as soon as I step my foot into the clinic, my sickness should go away. But you have to do your work in terms of whatever the doctor instruction says, and you will overcome it. So when you are sick, you have to do certain things, right? So for example, if one is sick, maybe one is too much body aches, so you can't probably run a marathon, for instance, or whatever. So there are some restrictions. But as you take the treatment, slowly those restrictions go away and you will be able to do what you can do. When you approach spiritual life, in the initial stages, there is some natural tendency based on your own condition. And one should take the treatment, at the same time one should gradually wean away. So if you have for example, I'll tell you an example. A person is by nature businessman. The whole idea is to make money. When you enter into spiritual life, it may seem contrary to spiritual values. The greed and making money seem to be against, the tenet which we read, that God said, whatever is you are allotted, you will get it. But you cannot overnight stop your nature. So the intelligence is how to channel that nature so that your spiritual life is not destroyed. So pursue your passion, but with a view to cure that passion in the long run. So coming back to the example, if you are a businessman who wants to make money, but have a spiritual goal in your profits to start with. Don't give up the tendency to not do business. But at least start with, okay, some money, whatever I make, let me give it to Krishna. At least that's a good start. Eventually, when one spiritually advances, you come to the point, what I need to do with money at all? I'm a spirit soul. Millions and billions of dollars won't satisfy me, so what am I doing here? So there is a gap between where you are versus where you be, and that stage of sadhana is an individual and personalized steps for every living entity. There is no formula, or there is no set time frame, a universal time frame for everybody, saying that from year 1 to year 5 everybody will become perfect. For some it could be 5 years, it could be 1 year. For Dhruva it was 6 months. For somebody it could be 6 million lifetimes. We don't know. That is between the soul and Krishna and the soul's desire. So no, you cannot give up your passion. But intelligently you can't be overwhelmed by passion either and forget Krishna. So it will be a balancing act. Thank you. Yeah, because actually we'll come to that point. It's an important point that we'll read. You had a question.
Just to add something to that.
Sure.
Like, for example, George Harrison had a lot of money, that he made, but then he donated the whole castle in England, for the devotees.
Nice. Wonderful. Thank you. So, Gaurab, you are going to read the last paragraph on the verse 32. I'm sorry, today, is that okay if we don't have a break? Because we'll quickly try to wrap up. And who knows, 5 minutes early we'll try to wrap up, and that could be the good break. Okay? So, Gaurab, page 32. Last paragraph.
The conclusion is that as human beings we are meant not simply for solving economic problems on a tottering platform, but for solving all the problems of the material life into which we have been placed by the laws of nature.
Excellent. So, I think that also, Vijay, answers your question. Not only solve your economic problems, but solve your problems permanently. So do both, to start with. And as we spiritually advance, we come to the stage that I am a pure spirit soul, I have nothing to do with this matter. The only business of mine is to serve and please Krishna. And in that stage, one doesn't identify oneself with matter at all. Even though one is living in this material body, there is no identification with matter. There is just, it's a pure spiritual existence. Yes, Balram. And then Vijay.
So I don't think this is related to this, but when many people, many devotees, they go to the spiritual world, will it, like the population on the material world, will it be decreasing and increasing in the spiritual world?
Balram's question is that he's wondering if a lot of people become devotees and go back to spiritual world, wouldn't the population in spiritual world increase, and there could be sort of congestion and there are infrastructure problems. But excellent question, Balram, excellent question. Spiritual world, Krishna's planet actually is very limited, quote unquote, in terms of space. So Vrindavan in India is just some 64 square miles, right? 64 square miles. In that 64 square miles, it is said in Srimad Bhagavatam that Krishna's unlimited number of cows existed. So in the spiritual world, it's not the same way as material world. I'll tell you an example. During festivals, our temple hall, does it get full? To the point that people have to go out, right? Out and stand. But what if a person comes, doesn't occupy any space at all? So a person comes, that space still exists. Another person comes, space still exists. So within this particular thing, you can hold unlimited number of people because they don't occupy space. In the material world, I am here, which means I occupy the space, right, from this place to this place. And if you try to occupy the space in between, that's not possible. If you come here and say, no, I want to occupy the space here, means I'm already here, you can't come. Yes? For example, if there is a glass here, and then I try to keep a book somewhere in between the glass, it's not going to work, because this glass is already occupying the space, and this needs this much amount of space. In spiritual world, you can put everything in the same thing, still it doesn't occupy any space. So, because the concept of space is there in the material world. The spiritual world, there is no space. There is no spiritual world can hold unlimited number of people, yet more unlimited number of people also can come. That is spiritual world. We read in the invocation, right? Om Purnamada. So in the spiritual world, if you add infinite to infinite, it will be still infinite. If you take infinite out of infinite, it will still be infinite.
But my question was many people go to spiritual world, but will the population in the material world, will it be decreased? Like there will be very less animals and people in material world?
No, because the thing is, again, the less or more comes because we think that there is a limited number of souls. Right? For example, we have how many people here? Count. 12 people out of 30. Okay. Assume that half of us go into that room. So the population in that room increases, and the population in that room, in this room. What if there are unlimited number of people there and unlimited number of people here? So if few people go there, it still be unlimited here. Right? Same thing. So when you say more or less, which means that there is a limited number of people, but the souls are unlimited, which means that there is no question of ever increasing or decreasing. And please understand that it is not a one-way traffic. People are going here and never coming back. Some people are coming back, are falling from spiritual world into material world too. So it's always a flux. That therefore, Krishna, even though he doesn't want to create this material world, he still creates the material world to give a chance for the conditioned souls to go back.
But like in the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna says like whoever comes to spiritual world won't fall down. But now you just said that people fall down from the spiritual world. So how is that possible?
Well, once you go back, you never come back. But those who have been never here in the material world, there is a chance for them to fall down.
Okay.
So no worries. So it's not like Krishna's words are not wrong. When he says you go back, you'll never come back again. That is his word in Gita. Yeah. So population census is hard to keep track of. That's the point. Yes, Gaurav.
Yeah, so I had just an addition.
Uh-huh.
So that way the population of human beings are increasing in the material world.
Right.
So adding to his question, how do you explain that?
In Kali Yuga, actually, in Kali Yuga, it's a hard struggle for existence, and one thing it's mentioned is that if there is a varnashram system of population, then it will be more regulated. The whole idea of varnashram system was population regulation. But in lack of it, people have no qualms of having as many children, or the mentality or the attitude changes in Kali Yuga because of ignorance. In Kali Yuga, people don't think what is the purpose of having children. If they get this idea that to have a child means I have to deliver him from cycle of birth and death. Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur said that if I could make my child Krishna conscious, then I would have hundreds of children. But since I don't have that capacity, I have remained a sannyasi. So if everybody had that awareness and knowledge, spiritual knowledge, then people would be more careful. Not just, they wouldn't think I have to expand my family in an egoistic way, but to see the deep spiritual purpose behind having children. In Kali Yuga, my understanding is that's lacking, and people think it's okay. 8 kids, 9 kids, more better for the family in terms of, they always think in the economic development on my own egoistic thing, rather than bringing a soul into this world and delivering that soul from cycle of birth and death. It's a heavy responsibility. That's why you see human population is increasing, but all the animal populations are decreasing, and they are becoming endangered species. Anyways, mantra 4. Questions up till mantra 3? Okay, let's...
Prabhu, one more question.
Yes.
So, when somebody is, yesterday also we were discussing this question. So, how do somebody come back from the spiritual world to material world? And how, because
definitely is something I won't exhaustively discuss in this class. We can definitely discuss offline, but I'll give you the answer. In the 3rd canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, there is an extensive story of Jaya and Vijaya and how they fell from spiritual world to material world. But in the context of that, it is mentioned by Srila Prabhupada that the soul has similar characteristics like God. Is that something we all agree upon? Because the soul is minute and the God is infinite, but nevertheless in quality they are the same, in quantity they are different. In quantity God is infinite and the soul is infinitesimal, but they share the same qualities. Now the part of sharing the same qualities is God independent? So by that logic, does soul also have independence? Free will? Because the God has free will, the soul has, but the God's free will is again infinite and the soul's free will is infinitesimal. Now, but there is free will, right? Because please understand, if there is no free will, then God is everybody's well-wisher, which means that everybody going back to spiritual world is the best thing for the soul and for God? Why are you not there yet? Means, does God not have the power to pull you back? He does. Why is He not pulling me back? We don't want to go back, our freedom. But the point, pardon? That's why He doesn't interfere with your independence. That's why He says, if the jiva says, I want to come here, then let him come. So, because the jiva has that free will, Srila Prabhupada writes, by misuse of minute independence, the jiva falls. This you can debate this point till the end of Brahma's life. I'll tell you that much. But the simple short answer as a members of Bhakti Sastri course is only 4 words. And you can quote it on authority of Srila Prabhupada. You can read it up, you can look it up. Misuse of minute independence. 4 words. Misuse of minute independence. Pardon? This is there in 3rd canto. I don't have the exact purport on the tip of my tongue. But it's extensively, Srila Prabhupada writes, don't even worry about trying to find out how the soul fell down, but accept the fact that soul fell down because of misuse of minute independence. When you have free will, you have a tendency to misuse it. And why it happens? Again, it can vary. In the case of Jaya Vijay, they were here just for 3 lives. That's what they were ordained for. They came here, they fell down, and they were, in the first life they were Hiranyakashipu and Hiranyaksha. Second life, Kumbhakarna. Third life, Dantavakra. The 4th life they came, but their curse was over. But point here is, their lifespan was just for 3 lifetimes. So other souls, they may have more longer duration. Right? So there is every specific history for each jiva. Each jiva has personal specialized reason why he or she fell. And only Krishna can actually tell it in full truth, because you cannot explore it on your own. It's impossible. It's not even waste. Alright. So let's do the 4th. The other point I want to emphasize is the Bhakti Shastri class, we have to cover how many verses today? But we are going to do only 4. That's okay, because it's a simple fact. The reason why we are even having the class is to have this discussion. And part of that discussion can sometime entail more questions or more discussion, which may put our completion a little bit, we can skip. But the goal is that we'll complete 1 more verse today. We'll stop at 4th verse. And then the next time when we do Isopanishad, we'll start from the 5th verse. We'll cover the 5th and then try to cover the other verses. Okay, after this, now it's about Krishna. Kindly repeat after me. Who's Neetu Mataji? Please be ready to read the translation. Kindly, 4th verse, we are reading from text 33. Ane jadekam manaso javiyo naina deva apnuvan purvamarshad tadhavatonyanatyeti tishtad tasmin apo matarishva dadati.
Although fixed in his abode, the personality of Godhead is swifter than the mind and can overcome all others running. The powerful demigods cannot approach him. Although in one place, he controls those who supply the air and rain. He surpasses all in excellence.
Thank you. So here in this particular verse, the characteristics of Krishna is given. What's a contradiction? Yeah, yeah. Something else. So if I say, I know. If I say ice cream is cold, can it be also hot? No, it can't be hot. It's a contradiction, right? So here, what is the contradiction in this particular verse about God? He is in one place, but he can control everything, and he can go everywhere else. So that is the first contradiction. And Srila Prabhupada talks essentially about the fact in the beginning of the purport that through mental speculation we cannot understand Krishna. You know, what is a mental speculation is that I try to know something, then I go through the process of induction, which means okay, not this, so that, this is that. You know, but Krishna, you cannot approach it like that. Why? Because Krishna can go faster than the speed of mind. So forever he can be elusive. You can never approach him like that. We can come to the conclusion, you can approach, actually the philosophers or the Mayavadi philosophers actually approach Krishna like that, but the conclusion you come is that God is not a person. He is a formless, he is effulgence, he is light. Your mental speculation can only reach to that point about God. It's ironical, but that's what happens when you try to understand God on your own through mental speculation. What else? The other thing about the contradiction which we talked about is that God is situated in one place. If God is situated in one place, how is he able to exert his influence in other places? Right? That's the question. One example you can think of is the president of a powerful country who has armies all over the world. Sitting at one place, he can start a war halfway across the globe. Right? Is that a possibility? If a president of one tiny country can do that, why not God can do that? Yeah, the phone says yes. So there is a verse, a beautiful verse. I don't know on top of my head what are the verses we are going to memorize, but this is a verse. It's a beautiful verse. Let's recite it. Page 382. It's from Vishnu Purana. Kindly repeat after me. For those who are online, we are reading from the Shloka book, page 382, and this is quoted in Vishnu Purana. Okay. Ekadeshastitasyagner Ekadeshastitasyagner Jyotsna vistariniyata Parasya brahmana shaktis Tatedam akhilam jagat. Just as the illumination of a fire which is situated in one place is spread all over, the energies of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Parabrahman, are spread all over the universe. So here, if there is assume that there is a campfire and situated in the center of the room, then the heat can be felt and light can be felt over the entire room. Similarly, the Lord can have his energy spread all over the universe. What else are mentioned in these purports? Gita 10.2, yes. And in that connection, it is said in 10th chapter, 2nd verse of Gita, it is said, Name Vidusuragana, which means that not even the sages or the demigods can know me. Name Vidusuragana. So it is said, if the great sages or the demigods cannot know Krishna, then how can one know? Through one's mental speculation. So that's another aspect of it. What else can we learn from this particular purport? Oh, one nice thing we learn about from this purport is what is Maya. Let's turn to page 36. For those who are online, we are reading from page 36. The second paragraph. Every part and parcel of the complete whole is endowed with some particular energy to act according to the Lord's will. When the part and parcel living entity forgets his particular activities under the Lord's will, he is considered to be in Maya or illusion. Thus, from the very beginning, Sri Isopanishad warns us to be very careful to play the part designated for us by the Lord. This does not mean that the individual soul has no initiative of his own. This is a very important thing, because God is doing everything. When God wants, I'll come to the temple. When God wants, I'll chant Hare Krishna. When God wants, I'll do something. Otherwise, I don't do. But God has initiative, so do you. Then please use it up, right? Right? Because Krishna has initiative. That means the soul also by nature has initiative. So Srila Prabhupada says one can use one initiative. When it is said in Bhagavad Gita, Ye yatha mam prapadyante tam stataiva vajamiham. Krishna actually is pretty, he is making a condition. As you surrender, I reward accordingly. He doesn't say, don't surrender or not surrender, I'll reward you accordingly. He makes that condition. If Krishna says, as men surrender unto me, I reward accordingly, implicit in that particular statement is that the soul has initiative. If the soul doesn't have initiative, there is no question of soul trying to surrender to Krishna and Krishna rewarding accordingly. And statement of Krishna should be false. Because soul doesn't have initiative, then how can he surrender? If I cannot surrender to Krishna, then how can Krishna reward accordingly? The whole statement becomes a big catch-22 situation. So the soul does have initiative. And soul does have free will. The other thing we were discussing on the Srimad Bhagavatam class is, you asked that question, you remember? The soul and the free will. There is free will for the soul. The soul can do whatever the soul chooses to do here. Good or bad, plus or minus. Because if the soul doesn't have that capacity, then you cannot. The initiative is there with the soul. So, alright. When a person properly utilizes his initiative, for those who are online, we are continuing reading on the second paragraph on the page 36. When a person properly utilizes his initiative or active nature with intelligence, understanding that everything is Lord's potency, he can revive his original consciousness, which was lost due to association with Maya, the external energy. All power is obtained from the Lord. Therefore, each particular power must be utilized to execute the will of the Lord and not otherwise. The Lord can be known one by who has adopted such a submissive service attitude. Perfect knowledge means knowing the Lord in all his features, knowing his potencies, and knowing how these potencies work by his will. What is perfect knowledge? This is an important thing. What is perfect knowledge? Knowing the Lord in all his features, knowing his potencies, and how these potencies work by his will. These matters are described by the Lord in the Bhagavad Gita, the essence of all Upanishads. Balram, is Bhagavad Gita essence of all Upanishads? Excellent. Good job. So we'll stop today here because and then in the next class we'll do the fifth and then we'll go. Any questions? Those who are online, wait. For those who are online, are there any questions? Because I haven't heard much questions today.
There are 23 viewers right now.
Haribo, wonderful. Thank you so much for joining online. Any questions or comments? Or probably we should have a devotee who plays the role of Shraddha Mataji in these classes. Collect the texts, right? Those who are online or who are driving. Makes it easier.
This is just a logistical question.
Yeah.
In our email, we had mention of homework assignments. So I haven't gotten an email for homework. So is there homework?
I think the reason you haven't got an email is because nobody has gotten one.
Okay. So
I haven't sent a homework yet. I'm sorry.
Okay. So there is no homework, right?
No, actually, I have to send it. I have to ask Shyamalangi Mataji, and when is the homework? And she is the logistical director and coordinator. Whatever she says, I'll do.
Okay. So we should expect homework for the next time, or no?
Yes. When was the homework due?
We don't know. We never got it. So
No. But according to the calendar, when was the homework due? Tomorrow?
I don't know.
Yeah. So please look it up, and then we'll provide the homework.
But so she'll send it out, and then we email it back. Is that right?
Yeah.
Or is it okay. We don't bring it to
Absolutely.
class.
No.
is it?
No. Please.
Okay. Thank you.
So again, online, are there any questions or comments? Yeah. Yes, Prabhu. Ashish, Prabhu, welcome. Okay. Yes, Ashish.
My question is about, like, you were first referring to the mental speculation thing through which you cannot understand Krishna. So, many devotees advise, like, when you're reading the verses, you should visualize the pastimes of the Lord, and this is my understanding, but maybe it's incorrect also, and that is the way through visualization and then all that process, one person gets realizations, So this whole visualization process, so that people do while reading verses and listening verses, or all that, isn't that also a kind of mental speculation? Because, I'm just trying to kind of get clarification on what is the, I get the mental speculation aspect that you mentioned in the class, but
Makes sense. Good question. Srila Prabhupada writes actually that when you are chanting Hare Krishna, don't try to see the pastimes of the Lord. Instead, just chant with your mouth or lips and hear with your ears. And as one progresses, automatically the pastimes of the Lord are revealed. So instead of we trying to force our mind to see the pastimes of the Lord, we wait for the Lord to reveal His pastimes. And that doesn't fall under mental speculation. Because it seems... one day Srila Prabhupada's disciple told him that, Srila Prabhupada, you came to me in dream and you asked me to smoke ganja. Because the problem with the dreams is, you experience one thing, you experience another thing totally unrelated, the dream will try to put it together. So, Srila Prabhupada said, that's nonsense, that's Maya speaking, not me. So my point is that mind, when it generates images, not either consciously or subconsciously. Consciously is daydreaming, subconsciously is dreams at night. Both of them are not very reliable sources of our spiritual realization. To some extent they may be, and that is ratified by Guru, Sadhu and Shastra. For example, Srila Prabhupada's dream, Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati came and asked him to take sannyas. And then he asked his god brothers and everybody, and they said, yeah, you should take sannyas. And then he had like 3 or 4 sources of verification, and then he took sannyas.
And can I?
Please.
I think there are ways to determine, to discern between the spiritual dream and your subconscious mind trying to work something out. And there's a way you can discern
How?
which is which.
How?
So
How do you discern that?
that's another offline.
Offline? All right. Okay. Let's keep
Long
it offline. All right. So thank you very much. I will wait for the main event of the evening, which is Vaishish Prabhu's class, and then we'll start. Thank you so much for coming. And thank you for all the online devotees. Hare Krishna.